What if the wealthiest families in the world weren't just building fortunes, but shaping the future from behind closed doors? What if legacy wasn't just about memory, but about control? And what if the real power didn't lie in your last name, but in what you leave behind for the next 100 years? This isn't just about inheritance, it's about influence. And it all starts with one truth. Legacy is not a memory. It's not a statue in a park or a name engraved on a building. Love what you're watching. QR's on screen. Scan it and join the community. Don't miss what's coming next. Legacy is not a memory. It's not a statue in a park or a name engraved on a granite wall. In today's world, legacy is a living, breathing strategy, an ongoing negotiation between power, wealth, and time. It has nothing to do with nostalgia and everything to do with continuity. Legacy is the currency of the long game, invisible to the masses, but understood in detail by those who wield it best. When we speak of the business of legacy, we are stepping into a realm where billion-dollar family names are whispered in boardrooms, not shouted from rooftops. This isn't about the past, it's about control over the future. From the Rothschilds to the Murdochs, from Japan's Toyota dynasty to Italy's Agnellis, some families have long understood a simple truth. The most powerful asset is not land, stock, or capital. It's the ability to shape generations after you're gone. And in this light, legacy ceases to be sentimental. It becomes systematic. It begins with architecture, not the buildings that bear a name, but the structures beneath them, financial, legal, social, and cultural. Legacy is built like an empire, brick by brick, document by document, dollar by dollar. Families and corporations that seek endurance rarely rely on inheritance alone. Instead, they design blueprints for the future. Trusts and family offices are among the most important tools in this arsenal. A trust is not merely a financial instrument, it's a form of temporal governance, a posthumous contract with time. It tells money how to behave decades into the future. Meanwhile, the modern family office functions more like a private institution, managing everything from asset portfolios and philanthropy to succession plans and public image. The Rockefeller family's office, still operational, quietly coordinates the wealth and influence of over 200 descendants. It doesn't just manage capital, it manages legacy. But financial tools alone are insufficient. Legacy requires dynastic thinking, a mindset that extends beyond quarterly earnings and 5-year goals. The most influential families operate on a 100-year timeline. They write family constitutions, establish generational councils, and embed their values into education. They don't just pass on wealth, they pass on worldview. They ask themselves not, what am I leaving behind? But what will my name stand for a century from now? Today, the lines between family and firm have blurred. Corporations think like dynasties. Families operate like corporations. Consider LVMH, the luxury conglomerate headed by Bernard Arnault. This is not merely a company. It's a cathedral to brand and bloodline. Arnault has carefully placed his children into strategic executive roles across Dior, Louis Vuitton, and Tiffany. Behind the scenes, this is succession planning at its finest. It's not just strategy, it's survival. Across the world in South Korea, Samsung has long operated with monarchical precision. What began as a small trading company in the 1930s is now one of the most powerful corporate dynasties on earth. When Chairman Lee Kun-hee passed away, the reins of power didn't merely shift, they were ritualistically transferred. The symbolism was national. Samsung isn't just a business, it's part of the country's industrial mythology. Preserving a legacy is not a passive act. It requires fortification, taxes, inflation, family feuds, economic collapses, political upheaval. These are the forces of erosion, and so the builders of legacy arm themselves with specific tools to guard their future. Philanthropy, for instance, is no longer just a gesture of goodwill. It is a dual-purpose weapon. It shields wealth through tax incentives and extends influence through public narrative. The Ford Foundation, the Gates Foundation, and the Walton Family Foundation are not merely institutions of charity. They are institutions of legacy, vehicles for shaping society's memory of their benefactors. Gates is not only remembered for Microsoft, but for fighting malaria and funding education. That's not PR, that's legacy engineering. Control of narrative is the next frontier. To influence how you are remembered is to curate your immortality. Rupert Murdoch did not just build a media empire, he built a belief system. Through Fox News, The Times of London, and The Wall Street Journal, he injected ideology into culture and ensured that his legacy would shape how others thought about everything from politics to patriotism. The message is clear. Own your story, or risk being written out of history. Politics, too, is a tool of the legacy class. Campaign donations, policy foundations, lobby groups, and think tanks are deployed not just to protect interests, but to embed influence across regimes. The Koch brothers are a case study in this playbook, having shaped American conservative politics for over half a century, not just by funding candidates, but by funding the narrative framework around policy. Yet perhaps the most subtle and potent tool of all is cultural capital. It is not tangible, but it is everything. A Kennedy, a Mandela, a Carnegie walks into a room and carries more than a name. They carry a gravitational field of respect, access, and legacy. Cultural capital is what remains when money is gone and history remembers. Still, legacies are not invincible. They crack, they collapse, they vanish. Take the Vanderbilts. Once the wealthiest family in America, their fortune built on shipping and railroads, they lost nearly all of it by the third generation. Lavish spending, lack of discipline, and no coordinated vision reduced the family's stature to a cautionary tale. They had money, but not the structure to maintain it. The lesson echoes in other legacies, such as the Sackler family, once celebrated as benefactors of the arts. Their name adorned the walls of major museums, but the opioid crisis revealed the devastating consequences of their pharmaceutical empire. Today, their name has been stripped from cultural institutions around the world. Their legacy, once curated, is now contaminated. Even more common is the slow erosion caused by internal conflict. Succession without preparation leads to chaos. The Redstone family, controlling CBS and Viacom, found themselves mired in public legal battles over control, trust, and capacity. Without cohesion, even the strongest dynasties splinter. Yet while old names falter, a new class of legacy architects is rising. They are not born into fortune, they build it. But they think generationally from the start. Tech founders like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jack Ma aren't just creating companies. They're laying the foundations for future mythologies. Through investments in space, artificial intelligence, education, and climate tech, they are shaping not just markets, but narratives. Zuckerberg's Chan Zuckerberg Initiative is more than philanthropy. It's a multi-generational blueprint for impact, engineered with surgical precision. Cultural titans are following suit. Beyoncé, Rihanna, LeBron James. These are no longer artists or athletes alone. They are empires. Through fashion houses, film production, education reform, and social investment, they are becoming institutions. Their fame is no longer the product, it's the foundation. And here is the powerful truth. Legacy is not just for the elite. Anyone can build one, because legacy begins with intention. If you're documenting your family history, building a community program, mentoring young leaders, or writing stories that inspire the next generation, you are in the business of legacy. You are crafting influence that will echo beyond your time. It might not be measured in billions, but it will be measured in change. Legacy is a mindset. It's asking, what will remain when I'm gone? What decisions am I making now that my great-grandchildren might feel? It's not about waiting to accumulate wealth. It's about starting to accumulate meaning. In a thought experiment, imagine a great hall of legacy, part museum, part cathedral. Its walls are lined not just with portraits of billionaires, but with unsung teachers, grassroots organisers, independent filmmakers, unknown activists, and the first in their family to buy a home or start a business. In one corner, a hologram tells the story of an immigrant woman who turned her neighbourhood into a cultural district. In another, a 3D projection honours the engineer who created an open-source invention that saved lives during a crisis. Legacy is not only the echo of greatness, it is the architecture of impact. At its core, legacy is a formula. Wealth, yes, but also values, vision, and time. It requires clarity of purpose, the structure to hold it, the stories to carry it, and the courage to think far beyond your own lifespan. Whether you are a multinational holding company, a teacher, an artist, or a startup founder, you are already shaping the future. The only question is whether you're doing it by default or by design, because the real business of legacy por BC is never just about the past. It's about making the future remember your name. Inspired by legacy, scan the QR on screen, join the community, like, subscribe, and share what it means to you. This is just the beginning. Let's shape the future together.